All right, we're finally getting started on the landscape project today. This is going to be a perennial type garden, and we're going to start off with a little bit of grading. This is the northwest side of my house, so it sees very little sunlight during the year. So our idea is to convert it to a perennial type garden, a lot of shade tolerant plants. We're about 1,500 to 2,000 square foot in this area, and the idea is going to be we're going to have plants over on this side, plants over on that side, and then down the middle we're going to have kind of weaving patch of grass, if it'll survive, as our walkway down through here. And it's going to come about to here, and then it's going to flare back out into the main part of the backyard. Grade is always hard to see on camera, but there's probably about a 10-foot rise from where I'm standing at the bottom of the hill to the front of my house. I've got a walkout basement, so this area is just rough graded. I've got a ditch that kind of runs right here. A lot of just imperfections in the yard, real bumpy to mow, so we're going to take care of all that today. Got a little bit of an undulation going right here on the back side of where the tractor is, and I'm going to try to fill all that in with some fill dirt and get this graded out smooth. The only irrigation that we have in this area is this valve box, and it's probably 3 or 4 inches low, so I'm going to go ahead and bury it and make sure you remember where it is, because they're hard to find after you bury them. So the first thing we're going to be doing is using the power rake to go over the area. We're going to set it on a deeper setting and try to alleviate some of the holes and drag some of the existing dirt around and level it up the best we can before we bring in additional dirt. The whole point of doing the grading before we do the flower bed is so we can kind of set ourselves up for success. You want to make sure that you alleviate any of the problems, areas that hold water because they're shallow, or high areas that may dry out quicker. So if you're doing a full renovation, good idea to go ahead and get somebody to grade it smooth for you and make the maintenance of whatever plant you're trying to plant in that area just a little bit easier. One thing I've learned over the years, when you're doing grading with a lightweight tractor like this Ventrac, it's always better to add dirt than it is to try to move dirt. So if you got a little bit of a low area, just go and get you some fill dirt. So this is about what we're looking for. We just got some nice gentle curves to make it easy to mow. We're going to do this 5 feet over, so we have to only make 1 mower pass. And we just wanted to make it look natural, so we don't want any straight edges or anything. Here's the map that we drew up. You can see that stretch of grass down the middle. We just laid that off with a hose pipe, and then we took some measurements on different areas of where we wanted to put the bushes or trees. We chose some of these trees based on stuff we saw online. Some of it was chose based on what we've already got existing in the landscape and wanted to reuse. We're just going to reorganize some of it. A lot of it was chosen based on the fact that it tolerated a lot of shade, because this area does get significant shade and filtered sunlight. It does get some sunlight throughout the morning, but it doesn't get that harsh afternoon sunlight. So these are rhododendron. They grow about 6 feet wide according to the label. So I'm gonna step them off about 5 feet in between each one. We want them to try to grow together a little bit to act as a screening plant to cover up the well house and transition from the landscape bed to the woods. So we got a few plants here today that we're going to be installing. Some of them were existing in the landscape. We're just going to move around and put in a different place. Others we picked up over the springtime, ones that we really wanted that we're going to put out here today. And then we'll continue to add on to it as the summer goes along. So all this Japanese spurge that's planted along the wood line, it's going to get moved to this corner right here and concentrated as a complete ground cover. We'll keep an eye on it pretty much all summer since it's been transplanted. It's pretty hard on them. We did prune the gardenias back pretty good when we transplanted them. That kind of helps develop the root system. Doesn't have so much top growth to manage. Oh, got them all. Some of these are probably under 6 inches of dirt, so that's good. We're gonna get those capped off today. I didn't really want to leave this funny pipe under the ground because it's probably more prone to leaking than the hard PVC pipe. But one thing you want to really note, you can see I've got my main line running here and I've got my irrigation wires to run into all my zones at the front of my house here. Best practice is to put it up under the irrigation pipe, and I learned that after doing this initial install, and I did that when I added on to my system. That will protect from hitting the wires when you're digging. So we always want to wrap our tape in the direction you're turning it closed. The best practice is just to put your finger through the middle of the tape in your right hand and then just run around. And with this monster tape, you want to do 3 twists. Standard tape, I believe they recommend 7. So this is what I chose to go with. This is just a nipple that screws in where the barb fitting just unscrewed. Put a piece of pipe, glue it in here, glue a piece of pipe in the cap, and just put it together like that. A lot of different adapters you could go with at Lowe's that would accomplish the same thing, but this seemed to be the cheapest route. Best practice is always to glue both sides of the fit you're putting on. As you're pushing it together, just twist it around about 180 degrees, 90 degrees, something, just to smear the glue around and hold it for just a few seconds. We're gonna leave that hole uncovered till we get them all done, and then let it dry for a few minutes, and we're gonna test it, make sure we don't see any leaking. It's always a good idea to backfill it with a little bit of loose dirt. Went up to site one to pick up a solenoid for an irrigation valve, and they had a bunch of these coral bells just got in. Things are hard to resist. Ended up buying a couple different ones, give a little bit of color to the landscape. This one's called Southern Comfort. I like to firm it up a little bit around the root ball. It helps push a little bit of the air out, and then we'll water it real good and try to get the rest of the air out from around the roots. Try to keep the root ball sticking above the ground. Some people do it 2 inches. You can do it an inch. You just don't want to get up on the growth here. You'll hear a lot of different opinions on it. We've had pretty good success so far with doing like we're doing. I think we've lost 1 or 2 plants out of several hundred that we planted in our landscape. And I feel sure that several of them are due to irrigation issues. That's probably about perfect. That's about 1 inch above the soil. When you come back with some mulch, that'll finish off coming up to the top of the plant. There's a lot of things to think about when you're designing a landscape, but one of the big things, other than sun and water requirements, is how big something is going to get and what you want the end result to look like. Do you want it to grow together into something, or do you want it to be spaced apart? So for this little grass here, that's about 3 by 3 square, is going to eventually get about 4 to 5 feet wide and 4 to 5 feet tall. So what I wanted to make sure is that this 4 by 4 plant will eventually not grow in to my grass walkway where I have to mow every day, or into my valve box. Coral bell, I guess, could be moved. That's just one of the things you have to think about, how a little tiny plant that size is going to grow into a much larger area. So unless you want to continually prune or manage a plant outside of what it's naturally trying to grow, then you need to really think about the space that you're putting it in. We're going to take this one out of the ground today and move it to the back. That looks like a pretty good spot for it. Hopefully it does better here. I love the foliage on these. It gives a huge contrast to all the normal green that you see. I think we're gonna need a rock right here. Try to kill this ledge. I think what we're gonna do is dig in with the bucket a little bit and try to remove some of that dirt, and then kind of inset a rock into it. So I feel like that turned out pretty good. Still need to do some dirt work around it, smooth it up, make it look a little more natural. I'm hoping to use some of these isolated pockets like this one here to plant something that either kind of weeps over or maybe a fern, something of that nature, and just to fill up these pockets right here with some type of plant, and that way it looks a little bit more natural. Of course, we'll backfill some more dirt around them and stuff, make it look like the rocks are coming out of the ground. Eventually this whole area is going to be nothing but mulch, but right now we're going to focus on the part that's bare dirt. So my goal here is to get this about 2 or 3 inches, probably closer to 2, just because of the amount of material I'm going to have to put out. And just trying to get the ground covered. When you get up to the base of a plant like this, I just barely put a dusting on the top, because last thing you want to do is bury that root ball under the ground. Once I get it mostly laid out with the pitchfork, I'll go back with this rake. I've found so many uses for this rake. It's been a fantastic investment. I bought it quite a few years ago. I think it's actually gone up significantly in price, but it is worth the money. This curve right here is going to be the edge of the sod that goes down through there, and we'll straighten that up as we get the sod in here. Looks kind of bare right now, but we're going to be adding a lot of plants this summer. So this is just get some ground cover down so we can hold the moisture in and help prevent a little bit of an erosion. Well, the rock planting is slowly starting to come along. My wife's done most of this, so I didn't get any of it on video, but hopefully some of that will fill in the gaps in between the rocks and you won't quite see the rocks stacked on each other as much. That really changes the looks of things. Well, this is where we're at a couple weeks later. This is probably where I'll end the video. There's going to be so many more plants to come on this landscape bed, but this is just the initial start. And really not sure how we're going to transition into grass here, but we're going to figure out a way to make that look good. We just really wanted to get the mulch down for some erosion control and to help hold the moisture in around the roots of these new plants during the summertime. But hopefully that rock will fill up pretty good to where you basically don't see any of those cracks in there. And this is dyed brown hardwood mulch. And this bare dirt area up through here is going to get sod. The ones that we transplanted are not doing so well, so we've got a couple more we want to transplant. I'm pretty sure we're going to wait till fall to transplant those. Those gardenias and abelias against the house, probably wait till this fall. And we've got some azaleas on the wood line back in the back, probably wait till this fall as well. We're gonna add some more stepping stones here, and still got to add some dirt up to the top here with drainage basin in the edge of the yard, so we're not going to do too much right here yet. It's been a pretty big project so far. There's going to be a lot more to come. Appreciate y'all watching. Be giving some updates as this comes along throughout the year.